Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Stars and Scrubs Fantasy Show. It's presented by SportsTalkLine. I'm your host, Trevor Stewart, as always. Today we're going to dive into another trio of free agents that have found new homes, and we're going to project their fantasy outlooks for next season like we've been doing these past several weeks. So let's get going. Our first player we're going to look at tonight is Cordarrelle Patterson for the Bears. And this was an interesting signing to me. I assume they're signing him to play wide receiver, of which they don't have that many great wide receivers. So it's a little puzzling of a move because Cordarrelle Patterson has not really made much of an impact as a wide receiver. He did enjoy some success on the Pats last season rushing the ball, however. He had quite a few more rushing attempts than he had targets even last season. They have a pass-catching running back in Tariq Cohen, who is dynamite in a can. You never know when he's going to pop off a 70-yard run. Great pass catcher out of the backfield. So I'm not really sure where Cordarrelle Patterson fits in because he's not going to function as the lead back, I can tell you that. He's not an elite pass catcher either. His nickname, Flash, is indicative of how dangerous he is in the open field, however. So you wonder if Nagy has something up his sleeve of how he's going to get Patterson the ball in space and maybe some bubble screens, some easy routes for Trubisky to get him the ball. But I got to see it first. I'm not really seeing his path to really fantasy relevance. Now, Bill Belichick used him as the lead back last year in a pinch, and he actually had some productivity there. But not everyone is Belichick. Not everyone can plug in a guy who's played wide receiver who can't catch, put him at running back, and find success. That's just not the normal formula. That's Bill Belichick being Bill Belichick. So with Cordarrelle Patterson, I'm not really sure where his upside's going to be here. He's never had even 500 yards receiving in his 6 seasons in the NFL. So I'm not sure what kind of impact he's going to make. I'm anxious to see what Nagy does. I'm just curious. I'm naturally curious to see how they're going to try and use him. So when we go to our scale, I'm going to look at team fit, and I'm going to say a 2 because I just don't see it. I don't understand where he fits in, and I could be very wrong, but on the outset, looking at this, I'm just not sure. Durability, I'm going to give him a 5. Hasn't missed very many games. He's available, just hasn't been very effective. So durability, a 5. Volume, I'm going to give him a 3. Now, only reason I'm even giving him a 3, I was vacillating between 2 or 3, and the reason I'm going to give him a 3 is because they did sign him as a free agent, and Nagy went out and got him. So I got to believe he has some sort of plan. How well that'll work, how well that'll come to fruition, I'm not sure. But I think Nagy's going to make an effort to get him the ball in creative ways. I'm just not sure how well it's going to work. And with that being said, his projection I'm going to put at a 2 because ultimately Cordarrelle Patterson is really fast. And that's really his best attribute. And I don't want to bag on the guy, but he's not an elite receiver. He's out of position as a running back. He can be a useful gadget player, but I don't see him making a huge impact. So if you're asking me on our starter scrub scale, what I think of Cordarrelle Patterson next season, I'm going to say, nah, bro. I'm going to stay away from Cordarrelle Patterson. Our next player we're going to dive into is Danny Amendola, Playoff Danny. Now, you know him from the Patriots. He made a cameo appearance for the Dolphins last year. Didn't really go that well. Comes over to Detroit. He's going to take over the Golden Tate role in the offense. Now, Tate had 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons for the Lions, but he saw his role diminish last year with the emergence of Kenny Golladay. That's my fantasy bromance of last year was Kenny G, and that really propelled me to a pretty good season. So I love me some Kenny G. Even in his heyday, though, Golden Tate on the Lions, he never eclipsed 6 touchdowns in a season. So there's definitely a cap on that, and Tate was definitely a very good player, but the Lions thought enough of the Marvin Jones, Kenny G duo to trade Golden Tate to the Eagles. So now enter Amendola, who is kind of the JV version of Golden Tate, really, and maybe even the C Squad version. And he's on a team with Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, Kerryon Johnson, the running back of the future, really, for the Detroit Lions. And that puts him really as the 4th best option on that offense, and maybe even not that. So his ties to Patricia with the Pats and his familiarity with him, he knows Danny can make those big catches. Amendola has had those clutch catches in his career, but it hasn't really translated to consistent fantasy points. And that's really what we're looking at here. This is definitely one of those cases where Amendola is a better life receiver than he'll ever be a fantasy player, and that's fine. You just have to know that going in. He's never gone over 700 yards receiving in a season or over 4 touchdowns, and he's had quite the injury history. So when he's out there, he is a great player. I think he's a very good player. I think he does his job well, and that's the Patriot way. You do your job, and that's why he was a great fit with that team. And I think that this team needs a good slot receiver who's reliable when he's out there, like Amendola, but I don't think it's going to translate to a lot of fantasy points. So if we're going to go to our scale, I'm going to say team fit is a 4, because I think that you have 2 big receivers in Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay on the outside. And that's really great. You guys, good red zone targets, good outside guys, but you need that guy who's going to run those nice underneath routes and sit down in the middle of the field. And Amendola will do that when he's healthy. And that's the big if. So then we get over to the durability scale, and I have to give him a 2 out of 5. He's 10 years in the league, and only 2 of those years has he actually played a full 16-game slate. So injuries are a huge deal for Amendola. So when I say when he's out there, I think he's a good player. The problem is he misses too many games. You can't really rely. Volume, I think he gets a 3, because I think the Lions are gonna throw it still. I think Kerryon Johnson helps give them another facet to their game, but I think they do still want to push the ball down the field, and I think Matt Stafford really does like to drop back and throw it still. So I think there'll be some volume there for him, but I think that volume is going to be those short underneath passes, and I think that's not going to be a lot of red zone looks, and it's not going to be a lot of down the field stuff, which leads me to my projection being 2 out of 5. I think that in PPR, he might be a little more usable, but even then, I don't think that he's going to have those big plays. I don't think he's going to have those touchdown red zone looks to be a real viable option. So 2 out of 5 on the projection. And really, when we're looking at the grand scheme of star to scrub, even in PPR, maybe if you're in a really good PPR league, maybe he gets a Nabro. But in a standard league, which is what I usually play in, when we get to the star to scrub scale with Amendola, at best on the PPR scale, he might crack the Nabro. But really, I gotta give him scrub. I think he is going to miss too many games, and I think the games that he's going to be there, he's going to get 5 catches for 40 yards, and that's great. That's what the Lions need. They need the guy who's going to chip away at those yards to help free up down the field for Jones and Golladay, but I don't think that's going to translate to a lot of fantasy points. So for all intents and purposes, Danny Amendola, got to label him a scrub for next season. Our third player we're going to talk about is Carlos Hyde, signing with the Chiefs. So to me, this is presumably to back up Damian Williams, who was fantastic in the absence of Kareem Hunt, and with Spencer Ware being hurt on and off at the end of last season. Damian Williams proved that he could be the guy. And I think that Kansas City is going to give him that chance. And I think they wanted to bring in a veteran, just a veteran behind him to help him out. I think the Chiefs probably just wanted to bring in a veteran presence behind Damian Williams. And Carlos Hyde, it seems like Hyde's been around a long time. It's actually only his 6th season in the NFL. So he's still got a lot of tread left on the tires, and I think the Chiefs see him as a really nice third down back kind of bruiser to Damian Williams' burst, especially with the release of Kareem Hunt and Spencer Ware signing elsewhere. They need that veteran presence, and I think Hyde's going to provide that. So some of the downsides, though, the things that I see that are troubling and give me pause about drafting him, is Carlos Hyde hasn't ever eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing in a season, and he's dealt with some injuries. He's only played 1 full season in his career. So that's a little bit of a red flag. Also on the Chiefs side of things, the Chiefs offense may be taking a really big hit. This Tyreek Hill news that came out is pretty troubling, and his status is really up in the air. He could be suspended for 8 games, or he could not play another down in the NFL, which would be a serious blow to the Chiefs offense. And for the potential Carlos Hyde touchdown vulturing, because that's really where Hyde would gain some of his value, is that high-octane Chiefs offense being near the goal line a lot, and maybe Hyde vulturing a few of those touchdowns from Damian Williams. But if the Chiefs offense loses a few of those weapons, those opportunities become fewer and further between. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep your eye on for a variety of reasons, but this being one of them. So I'm interested to see the Chiefs, how they plan to use them, since they run kind of an up-tempo West Coast offense, and Hyde can really fit into that Kyle Shanahan 49er offense, which is which is kind of a similar style. They really like that running back coming out of the backfield, like going to be able to catch. They run similar offenses, and Kyle Shanahan really didn't seem to like Hyde in that offense. So I'm interested to see how Andy Reid is going to ingratiate Carlos Hyde into the Chiefs offense, and maybe what that offense looks like if Hill is out. So for team fit, I'm going to give Carlos Hyde a 3. It's not my favorite fit for him, but I understand where the team's coming from needing a veteran presence, and I think he will get some work. Durability, I'm going to give him a 2. The fact that he's only playing one full season is a bit troubling. He does have a history of getting a little banged up, and that does come with being a running back a little bit. That just comes with the territory. For volume, I'm going to give him a 2. If Tyreek Hill isn't there, this might go up a little bit, but I see Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill getting a lot of touches. I see Damian Williams getting a lot of touches too. So he's a little lower on the pecking order as far as lining up for touches. So with Hill out, they may run the ball a little more. They run 2 backs. They did end up drafting another wide receiver who is very much like Tyreek Hill. So I wonder if maybe they know something that we don't about Tyreek Hill's availability. So for projection, I'm going to give Carlos Hyde a 2. I don't think he gets enough work to be really valuable unless, that's a caveat, Damian Williams were to go down with a serious injury. There's not a lot of depth, and Carlos Hyde would step into that role. So as a handcuff, maybe you take a shot on him in a late round. Maybe you keep your eye on him if you have Damian Williams. I don't think he beats out Damian Williams for the job. But if Damian Williams were to go down, that projection would pop up a couple points. And in that offense, he would have a chance to really actually be viable. But as it stands right now, I give him a 2 out of 5 projection. And I'm going to say, nah, bro. But asterisk, keep your eye on him. Pay close attention to what happens with the Chiefs' personnel moves this offseason. It could be an interesting beginning of the season for the Chiefs, depending on who is or isn't on the field. Okay, that wraps it up for this edition of the Stars and Scrubs Fantasy Show presented by SportsTalkLine. Follow the @SportsTalkLine Twitter account. Follow me on Twitter, @TPStewart8. You can also follow me on Instagram, TPS_SportsTalkLine. Keep it real. See you next episode.